Heaven. What do you think about heaven? I'm not sure what your mind conjures up, what you picture, what you visualize when you think of heaven. But I think if we were honest, most of us would describe our thoughts about heaven as maybe vague or possibly even confused. No matter what you picture when it comes to heaven, and no matter where you may be spiritually, I want to encourage you, I want to propose to you that you and I should think more about heaven. And I want to give you 3 quick reasons as to why that is. The first is that we should think about heaven because it is our future, or more accurately, I should say, it can be our future. Don't believe the lie that life is just about this short life that we may live here. At best, maybe 70 or 80 years, if we're lucky. There is something in us that knows that life is about more than just those few short years. And no matter what people may say or do when a loved one passes away, there's something in us, if you've ever had the experience of losing somebody close to you, that knows that there's got to be something more. There's something just not right about death. And the reason that is, the Bible tells us, is because God has placed eternity in our hearts. If you want to look up a passage that talks about that, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11 tells us that. It also tells us in the Bible that in eternity there are 2 vastly different eternal destinations, heaven and eternal punishment or hell. And God's desire is for all of us to be with Him in the place of His blessing, in heaven. And what we've got to realize is that our time there in heaven is going to far outweigh our time here on this earth. To try and illustrate this, I want you to picture with me that you're moving, that you're currently partway through a move. You're in the United States and you've got 1 month in the United States, and then you're going to catch a flight and live the rest of your life in the United Kingdom. Wouldn't it be ridiculous and absurd if all of your waking thoughts and all of your energy and time was consumed with thoughts about your time in the United States? Wouldn't you be thinking and planning and looking forward to what was to come in your life in the United Kingdom? We need to be thinking about where we are going long term. Second reason that we should think about heaven is because it is a desirable place. C.S. Lewis, in his book Mere Christianity, talks about how even the best things in this life leave us wanting more. The best days and the best experiences, and how that actually is a huge clue to the fact that we were made for something more. That there is more beyond this life, and that more is actually found in God. God tells us again in His Word, the Bible, that in His presence there is fullness of joy, and that at His right hand there are pleasures forevermore. That's Psalms chapter 16, verse 11, if you want to look it up. You see, God is the only one who can satisfy and fulfill our deepest longings, and those are going to be fulfilled with Him in His presence forever. A resurrected, perfect body is something that a Christian, somebody who loves God, should be looking forward to about heaven. A new heaven and a new earth where everything is right in nature is something that a Christian and somebody who loves God should be looking forward to. But maybe even, not maybe, definitely more than those things, we can and should look forward to being with the most wonderful and powerful being in the universe, the God who created us, the God who created the heavens and the earth. Being with Him is something that we should desire and look forward to. Heaven is desirable. And it's something that deep down there is a longing in each of us that is looking forward to heaven. The third reason we should think about heaven is because heaven is something we are told to think about. Again, God in His Word in Colossians chapter 3 tells us to set our minds on things above. As in, don't just think about the here and now. Think about God. Think about eternity. Think about heaven. And some would say, well, really, is that the case? If you're always thinking about God and eternity and heaven, wouldn't that mean that you're of no earthly use? If your mind's so stuck up in the clouds, which, by the way, heaven isn't all about clouds. C.S. Lewis, in his book again, Mere Christianity, says this: a continual looking forward to the eternal world is not, as some modern people think, a form of escapism or wishful thinking, but one of the things a Christian is meant to do. It does not mean that we are to leave the present world as it is. If you read history, you'll find that the Christians who did the most for the present world were just those who thought the most of the next. He then goes on and says, it is since Christians have largely ceased to think of the other world that they have become so ineffective in this. Aim at heaven and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth and you will get neither. So let's think about heaven. I want to encourage you, think about heaven. And more importantly than that, think about the one you will be with in heaven, God. He is the one who made us. He is the one that heaven is all about. And so as we look at different questions about heaven, I encourage you to jump in and look at some of these videos on this channel as we explore what is heaven all about.